Vishwa? Oh, here it is. I have it. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shriniyaama Devaah.
Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shriniyaama Devaah.
Bhadram Pashyema
Bhadram Pashyema
Akshabhiryajatraah.
Akshabhiryajatraah.
Sthirairangaiः
Sthirairangaiः
Tushtuvagam Sastanubhih
Stuštuvagam Sastanubhih
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 Vyashema
Vyashema
Devahitam Yadayuh.
Devahitam Yadayuh.
Swasti na Indro
Swasti na Indro
Vruddhashravah.
Vruddhashravah.
Swasti nः Pusha
Swasti nः Pusha
Vishvavedaः.
Vishvavedaः.
Swasti nastarkshyo
Swasti nastakshyo
Arishtanemihi.
Arishtanemihi.
Swasti no
Swasti no
Brihaspatir dadhatu.
Brahaspatir dadhatu.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vriddhashrava. Who is Vriddhashrava? Who is described as Vriddhashrava?
Indra.
Very good. Indra's middle name, second name is Vriddhashrava. Just because the word Shrava is there, don't say he listens well. No, no, no. The one whose name is famous, one of growing fame, his name is heard everywhere. Right now we are hearing his, all his good things. What are the things he has done? He is the Adhishthana Devata of all the Indriyas. Indrena Dattam, Indriyam. That Indriya is called Indriya because it is the first present for all the jivas, the living beings of Lord Indra. So therefore, in fact, that his name is Vriddhashrava means, the one of growing fame, whose fame is heard in all corners. First he gives the pair of ears the capacity to hear, and then the first thing we hear is what? His fame. So we become capable of hearing his own fame. So swasti naha means, may there be swasti for us. Naha means unto us. Ma no naha. It's an alternative form of, this asmat shabda. I, asmat means I here. Asmat and yushmat means you. That's why it starts with you. Yeah. And then, so in Asmat, you have Mahyam, Avabhyam, Asmabhyam. That is the fourth case. But we also have a alternative. Me, no, Naha. And that same thing is repeated also for sixth case. Me, no, Naha. And the second case is what? Ma, no, Naha. So these are alternative forms. So swasti no means, it doesn't mean let there not be swasti. Swasti naha astu. No, don't say no swasti. That would be the opposite meaning. Yeah. Naha, for us, fourth case, swasti astu, swasti rastu, may there be well-being, absence of all problems. From where? From Indra. First Indra, again in conjunction with what we said before. What was that? Bhadram karnebhi shruniyam, bhadram pashyema akshibhihi. And so in conjunction with how the prayer goes, lauding and praying to hear only that which is auspicious, and praying to see only the auspicious, the ability to weed out, because even in the seeing and the hearing, there is viveka there translating. Viveka is going out of the ears, through the ears, only to tune into that which is auspicious. Other frequencies are tuned out. Yeah. And the eyes, through the eyes, for to see only the auspicious, we pray for vairagya to go out the eyes and sift through all the nonsensical things and just hone into all that. So viveka through the ears, vairagya through the eyes, with the blessings of Indra. Beautiful, very nice. And if you are thinking, why like this? Why not vairagya through the ears? If you are thinking that, that's also a possibility. But it's harder to, vairagya is mostly in reference to what is immediately there. What is seen attracts. And in sifting, the discrimination is through the hearing in a certain way. Because you discriminate the tones, you discriminate. So you see, that's why I said that. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's just a little poetic license I'm taking here. So, then in keeping with that, we first praise Indra, who has given us this capacity for this viveka vairagya to operate through the sense organs, through the jnanendriyas. And then what? And bless us to only hear that which is auspicious. The only thing that is auspicious is what? Brahman, Ishvara. So only like Ishvarik sounds and Ishvarik sights may we be privileged to, not anything else. And really speaking, everything is Ishvara, is it not? Yeah. Even in the most difficult situation, when you see it as Ishvara, when you quote unquote convert, actually there's nothing to convert, it's already Ishvara. But in your mind's eye, you convert, you do that little conversion. When you appreciate somebody's difficult background or their difficult behavior, when you're able to discriminate between the person and the behavior, and you are able to appreciate the behavior, even though you don't appreciate the behavior, you appreciate the background from where the behavior might be emergent. And in so doing, you have Ishvarified the whole thing. Yeah. That is what the whole thing is. Bhadram means to Ishvarify the entire universe. Yeah, that's what it is. Just through the power of discrimination and vairagya, objectivity. Just through these two things, it is so beautiful. And then what? Then we have Pushan. Pusha, Pushan. Pushan means sun. Pushnati. Pushnati means what? Huh? Don't say pushes. Because the first word is push. No. Sanskrit way of saying pushes is pushnati. Wrong. Pushnati means nourishes. Yeah. The one who nourishes is called Pushan, short for Pushnati, function. The sun nourishes, because without sun, what life is there? I'm not talking of S-O-N, I'm talking of S-U-N, okay? Yeah. The sun nourishes, without sun, there is no life. Because everything, the source of energy on this earth is solar power. Everything is, the primary power is solar power. And also vegetables, you can say, but they also have to just take in the energy of the sun and make food. They know how to cook. They are the original cooks. The flora, yeah. Whatever you cook is, second time cooking. You cook what is already cooked. The raw people will be very happy. For the raw people, yeah, these raw food people. All kinds of ideas are coming, but I will defer them. Keep them at bay. I'll be very good. So then, Pushan, Swastinaha Astu. Swastinaha Pusha. And who is this Pusha? Because see, Indra had a title. What was Indra's title? Vriddhashrava. Yeah, and if we don't, give a title to Pushan, he will become upset. So we have to follow that same thing. Correct? So what is another name for Pushan? Vishvaveda. The whole universe, knows whom. That is Pushan. You shouldn't translate it that Vishvam Vedti. That is also okay, I suppose. The one who knows the whole universe, that is not a correct translation, not correct here. The one who is known in the entire universe, or rather by the entire universe. That is what it is. And then Vetritvam asti Vishvaihi. In the whole, by the whole universe, there is Vetritvam, the knowingness of whom? Because everything wakes up with the sun. The flower blooms in the light of blessed by the light of the sun. The bees are active in the light of the sun. You make your coffee in the light of the sun. You are active in the light of the sun. As soon as the sun goes down, all energy saps, like this. And then when the sun comes up, everything starts, like even, you see in India, this is very typical, whether in the towns or the villages, that dark time, 4 o'clock, just before the sun comes out, 4 o'clock, 4:30, everything is quiet. No, nothing moves except cockroaches. Nothing is active. And then suddenly, the milkman appears. And then the flower lady comes with all the flower things in the baskets. And then the kiosk which served the chai wala. Chai wala is sleeping inside the kiosk. So he slowly emerges. You don't know how it fit him. Seems to be a tall fellow, but somehow went into the original position. What is that? Fetal position. And then sleeps inside the kiosk. And then slowly, one limb at a time, gets stretched out. And then, he does little pranayama and yoga. And then brushes his teeth on the side of the kiosk. and then slowly, washes his face and slowly opens the kiosk and then starts the stove, pumps the stove into action, starts the stove. And then suddenly there is this tring tring, the cycle. What is this bicycle? The bicycle is going with a paper man, a paper fellow throws the paper at the kiosk man. But they are old enemies. This doesn't faze either of them. A few choice words are exchanged and each one goes his way. And then the flower lady makes the flowers, And since she's doing social service, because the first garland she always offers to the nearby shrine temple which is there in the thing. So she gets the first cup of chai free, Yes, he is hoping to win her favor for many, many years. She just accepts the chai and nothing is proceeding. She just goes her way. He doesn't give up hope. He is still persevering, plying her with chai. And all this is happening. Udite, as the Pushan is coming to nurture, so many dialogues are getting nurtured, so many thoughts are getting nurtured, so many activities are blooming. And the same kiosk fellow that went to bed hopeless is rising with a new hope. And even that lady is rising with a new hope. Perhaps today he will shut up and get my message. This is Pushan, Everything comes to light, everything comes to life. Life and light are one. And Pusha is this nurturing being. The sun, you shouldn't get too close to anything, really. This is the, what is that? This is the formula for sanity. Don't get too close to anything. So from Pushan, if you keep your distance, he nurtures, correct? Yeah, it's just such a nurturing thing. And so since Pushan is so central to our being, our very being, and since we have already, you have to always go back and get that connection, So we had already said, Sthiraihi angaihi, stutim kurvantaha, maybe be keeping on praising you. Yadayuhu, as long as we may be live, oh Devaha, we had said that. And who is the one who nurtures, whose presence nurtures these limbs, these bones, these old aging bones that go creak, creak, are very happy in the light of Pushan. So swasti naha astu, here the body and the mind are nurtured by this Pushan. And also one more thing which is going to be talked about later, both by the Upanishad and mainly, and even before that, in the Bhashya itself. Very beautiful. That the Pushan is, the sun is the Upalakshana for what? For knowledge. Yeah. The darkness is therefore the exam metaphor for what? Ignorance, avidya. So the darkness is avidya. And then we always say the light of knowledge. And the metaphor goes very deep here. Because really, if you look closely, where is the darkness? Is there such a thing called darkness? You have to really, even in the world, materially speaking, this is a Zen question. Something to really contemplate on. Is there such a thing as darkness? The scientists have been chasing this dark matter. They have not been very successful. But is there really such a thing called darkness, absolute darkness, or even darkness? You find absolutely that darkness, there is no such thing called darkness. Because by the time you cognize darkness, there is light. Without light, it cannot be cognized. So when you shine the light on darkness, what happens? It disappears. It totally disappears. Therefore, Pushan is celebrated because the one who chases away darkness, Whether it is real or proverbial doesn't matter. Real means this relatively real. So there is really no such thing as darkness. What darkness? Where darkness? By the time you look for it, the looking for darkness leads to shining a certain light on that thing. Whether it's the light of awareness or whether it's a flashlight. Sometimes it's both at the same time, and then there is no more darkness. So the Pushan blessings are for two reasons. One is keep the bones, operational, so that we can continue to engage in worship of Devas and continue to see Bhadram, continue to be who we are, and continue to grow spiritually, bless our limbs. One effect of Pushan. What is the second effect? Bless our minds. Yes, just like you are shining into the sky, in the sky, and and you start this whole saga of chaiwalas, etc. And inside also bless this vyapara. What is vyapara? All these vyaparas, activities. Inside there is a universe. Correct? A universe which is all dull and dark. You don't even know what's going on. You just have to keep, wondering what is the program, kya ho raha hai, what's going on, who am I, I'm just saying all the questions. And then what happens? You say, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And then, suddenly lightning strikes. Idiot. I'm an idiot. Why? Everybody said that when I was growing up. I'm a manda buddhi, because everybody said, oh, dull. And this is what the whole thing is. So, when that happens, when that answer comes, when I ask supposedly a spiritual question, Koham, who am I? And the answer comes, donkey. Then also there is an enlightenment of sorts. Why? That donkey vritti, meaning that donkey thought that I am as good as a donkey, was also lying hidden. Which this light of understanding or even this light of awareness is bringing forth. So it's not a bad thing. This donkey thought that I'm as good as an idiot, I'm as good as a donkey, I'm abandoned, I'm no good, I'm a samsarin, I'm a total washout, I'm a waste of time, I'm a burden on Mother Earth. All these thoughts are there and they are lurking like cockroaches in the unblessed mind, unblessed by Pushan, proverbial Pushan here. And when Pushan shows that all these things are there, Pushan is doing a big favor, proverbial Pushan, because then I can take the steps to make these cockroaches run and hide, make these cockroaches scatter. Then I can take steps to expose myself to this teaching so that these thoughts are interrogated. Because unless these thoughts surface, they cannot be interrogated. They are just there, and that's what we call bliss. That's the only thing. If there is a bliss, that's the bliss. What is the bliss? Ignorance of ignorance. So here swastinaha pusha means let there be no ignorance of ignorance. Let ignorance come to light. And along with that, ignorance will not come alone. It always brings uninvited guests. That's why in the West, they always on the invitation cards, they will always invite only two people, you and spouse. And if you don't have spouse, you can bring a friend or hire someone to go with you. They do that. Yeah, because to go anywhere alone is seen as so unacceptable in the West. It's a dyadic culture, So you always have to be two. not more, but not less either. And you can't go to a restaurant alone. Definitely, you can't go to a wedding alone. And you will be embarrassing the people, because where will they make you sit? How will you mingle? And they'll all, who will you dance with? Nobody will be there to dance with you. So all these problems are there. So you have to always go with someone, correct? They will always say two people, you and friend, wedding card. And RSVP also you have to say that I will be bringing such and such a person. In India they say, it's a general invitation. Please come and bless the marrying couple. The invitation card will say, with family and friends. With family and friends. So here, this is a completely different culture. So ignorance comes with family and friends. That's why I gave this example. And sometimes, there it is written family and friends because they are being polite, and you won't be turned away. But the idea is you don't bring your whole native village with you, You don't do that generally, Sometimes they do that. And, this is what the elderly ladies and retired men talk about afterwards. See who all they brought. That's what they will do. But here ignorance comes with family and friend. It comes with a brood. Why brood? Because it makes you brood. That's why it's brood. Yeah. So matter for brooding. And so ignorance comes with ajnana comes with kama, with karma, with kama, krodha, moha, lobha, mada, matsarya, with ahankara, a kind of a stilted, ingrown ahankara, a navel-gazing ahankara. Only it is interested in looking at itself, that's all. It's born with a hand mirror, like that fellow who fell in love with his reflection. What was his name? Yeah. This self-ignorance is narcissism, to the nth degree. And because the love of the self is what's that? It is it's distorted. Yeah, love of the self should be there, but not self is as good as the body, as good as the mind. He fell in love with his reflection, Dehatma Buddhi personified. And so, therefore, ignorance comes with family and friends, always. So therefore, oh Pushan, be kind to us. Reveal them one at a time, perhaps. As much as this little heart can handle, this puk heart. Don't give it an attack by too many pests. Here we can't call them guests, they are pests. And so, reveal them one at a time, maybe be kind to me. Reveal them though. Swastinah Pusha, Vishvaveda, who doesn't know you? And Swasti, may there be Swasti for us. May there be well-being. May we not lose our way from Triksha's son. Trikshasya apatyam Tarkshyah. Yes, these are all Tadhitas. Yeah. Tarkshyah. Triksha is was a being, an exalted being. Tarkshya is the Garuda. Swastinastarkshah. And who is this Garuda? Garuda also has a title. Arishtanemihi. Arishtanemihi means Arishtam Nishatayati, the one who removes all the arishtas, obstacles in the path. Like a bird in flight. What is the obstacle for a bird in flight? These days you can say planes, because poor things get entangled in the engines and it's become it's called bird strike. Actually, from the point of view of the bird, it's plane strike. Horrible. But really speaking, we are talking of the ancient times where the skies were, friendlier and clearer and were not such hazards for these Arishtanemis. And they are called Arishtanemi because the Garuda is this celestial eagle with a huge wingspan, just flying, gliding rather effortlessly. And what can come in the path? Nothing. Now another bird will be afraid to come in the path. Okay, that flight plan is already taken. Let me go lower because nothing can go higher. So the one who has an unobstructed flight plan already charted, and Garuda also, because it has eagle eyes, because the eagle does not waste time in just going for a joyride. No. The eagle spies the prey and goes straight for the prey. That's what it says, eagle eyes. It looks from top, it sees, it recognizes, it has excellent vision, much better than all of us put together. And then it just swoops straight on and lands with its talons on the prey. And then flies back again. If you've seen any National Geographic, it's worth looking at. And so here, the prey is what? Moksha, Atmavidya, correct? And then the general sadhaka. Who is the general sadhaka? Any lay person who has come to this knowledge. And the general sadhaka's route for this knowledge is circuitous, and that's a good way to describe it, a polite way to describe it really. Circuitous means janma after janma after janma after janma of encircling samsara or encircling in samsara. Gets the toes wet. One janma, attends one class, gains the guru, but has abandonment issues and waits for the guru to choose him. Dies away. Nothing happened. So first time got the toes wet. Second time got the nose wet. But nothing happened. Got some misunderstanding or something else, was more interested in grazing into the lands of other things. Grazed a bit here, grazed a bit there. Was unfazed by Vidya because, was not, exposure has to be consistent and for a significant length of time. The exposure was neither consistent nor significant, died away. So you see, it's a circuitous thing, life after life. And even within one life, there is a dalliance with the knowledge. You flirt with the knowledge. Cha cha cha, cha cha cha. No, cha cha cha. Pun intended. And. Okay, and now what? And now what? And now what? That's all it is. You just flirt with the knowledge. You court the knowledge. And then because that courting is not, is subjective. The courting comes from a place of abandonment. It's not an objective love for the knowledge. It's not falling completely in love for the knowledge. It's not courting the knowledge 100% as the Mundaka is wanting us to do. It's a half-hearted courtship. It's a courtship based on erroneous understanding of the self and of the knowledge. So why is it a half-hearted courtship? It's a half-hearted courtship because out of this courtship, I'm expecting to gain some surface level shanti. Shanti means certain contentment here. I'm expecting all my ahankarik, what is ahankarik? Belonging to the ahankara. So, belonging to the ego. So the ego level application of my issues, that is a half-hearted courtship. A courtship where there is a certain dalliance. I'll see what you can do for me. It's a wrong person to have this kind of a relationship with, because this Vidya does not condemn, does not respond in the way, it does not respond at the level of the ahankara. In fact, it doesn't respond at all. The Kathopanishad says, unless you are completely dedicated to it, it does not respond, it does not yield fruit. And then so this half-hearted dalliance becomes a proof of some kind that, oh, the Vidya doesn't work. Because the Vidya is a pramana, it's a means of knowledge. And it's a means of knowledge properly handled by the teacher, by the parampara, as we have been seeing. And if it's a means of knowledge that is handled by the teacher, the means of knowledge are, it's a means of knowledge, the job of it is to reveal something that you do not already know. Anadhikatam, that you cannot know by any other means. And then the means of knowledge also should be meaningful. Arthavat, it should make sense. And finally, the means of knowledge has to fulfill the third condition. What is that? It should have prayojana, phalavat, Phalavat it should be. It should produce that knowledge. The means of knowledge should produce that knowledge. So if the means of knowledge are the words of the teacher who is well taught, then they should enter the psyche and transform it. And for that we need titiksha. Titiksha means what? Hanging power. Yeah. Even if you're hanging by one limb, it's okay. That hanging power is needed because it blesses the one with hanging power. Because all these prerequisites, as we shall see, as the Upanishad unfolds, we will see. The prerequisites themselves show this. The hanging power is needed. And if the hanging power is not there, if you let go of the limb before the rescue comes, you cannot say that the rescue did not work. Yeah. Before you call 911, if you let go, then you say 911 never responded. This is what is called a half-hearted courtship. Let's see if the Vidya notices me. The Vidya is content. The Vidya does not need to notice you. You need to notice your own avidya. And that's why you have to seek this. It has to be a one-sided courtship. This is very important. And the Kathopanishad says as much. Tasyaiva atma vivrinute tanum swam. Swam tanum, that for such a person only who has the perseverance to go with this one-sided courtship, because the courtship is ultimately with what? The fruit of the knowledge is oneself. The courtship is with oneself really. And of course it will be one-sided, ekameva advitiyam. How many selves are there? There is no other. There is no father, no mother, no other. It's all you. And so the courtship has to be one-sided. And for the person who understands it, such a person alone is blessed by Atma Darshanam. Vibhrunute reveals Tanum, its own body. Swam, Tanum, Vibhrunute. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyah. That is why the Kathopanishad says, this Atma is not gained by listening to discourses. Oh, should we stop? Should we leave now? No. Pravachana matrena, only by discourses. Na medhaya, not by chanting Medha Suktam. Not by intellection. Na bahuna shrutena, not by just flitting from one teacher to another. Yamaivesha vrinute tena labhyah tasyaiva atma vivrunute tanum swam. So you have to make the first move. You have to do vrinute. You have to choose before the vivrinute happens. Before the revealing happens. You have to choose to know. So it is incumbent upon you. And so this grazing technique of, a little bit of wheatgrass juice of one Upanishad, another little bit of, juice here, and then another little dandelion there. you just get a liver cleanse, that's all, nothing else happens. Yeah. And this kind of a, meandering approach, an unserious kind of this low mumukshutvam, this has to undergo a big shift. You get back what you give, really. And in a one-sided courtship, if you give all, and the truth of yourself being all, you understand that as yourself. I am no longer small. That's not a small thing. That's a huge thing. That is vidya. But usually what happens is that there is an ennui, kind of a, boredom that sets in. And this boredom is nothing but apathy. Apathy is nothing, if you really unpack apathy, it's hopelessness. Hopelessness is connected with despair and abandonment. It all comes back to that. Ajnanam is equal to abandonment. I was abandoned. By who? Mummy. What? Daddy. What did they do? They went to work. Enough. That's enough. The child doesn't know any better. That if they don't go to work, then I will not have food on the table. The child cannot comprehend that. And the mummy and daddy are fallible, also the child cannot, comprehend that. And that, it cannot comprehend that, but it also has Bhagavan's blessing of just covering it up with a nice little, like when there is a landfill, on top of that now they have started to making some gardens. Underneath is styrofoam, and then they put 1 inch of lots of all kinds of non-biodegradable stuff is there. And then now the latest architectural, what is that? Progress means that you put 2 inches of soil on top and then you grow some flowers under the landfill. And that is the power of the unconscious. And the child thinks, oh, everything is blooming, everything is fine, I'm doing well at school. In fact, I like school better because home is miserable. Yeah, I like this. Very wonderful. And then the toxic fumes in adulthood consume those flowers. Why are all the flowers dying? What happened? And then you start a session. Vedanta session? No, therapy session. And that's when the unconscious comes to light. That's a great blessing, that this landfill of emotions of abandonment and fear are covered up by Bhagavan. Maya Shakti, Avarna Shakti. Wonderful. And therefore what? I interrogate this. This comes to light. All these things come to light only when I am ready, when I am an adult, when I have the wherewithal to do something about it. And sometimes it comes to light as soon as the person starts to study Vedanta, which is why there is an adage, especially in the West. I have heard this often. I was fine until I started to study Vedanta. After that, something happened. Now I am miserable all the time. Nothing is all the time. Nothing is all the time. That all the time is you, that's all. And that all the time, is not afflicted at any time. That is what one has to understand. But one makes the mistake of thinking that, if the body is having fever, oh, this is how it always is. No, it's not always like this. This is how it is right now. Now. And so, I have to develop the skills of Garuda, who sees the prey, identifies the prey, and then effortlessly, unerringly, and without any distractions, doesn't say hello to this bird or that bird, and doesn't go after some other, some other glittering piece somewhere. Oh, what is that? That's what a magpie does. We don't need a magpie buddhi. Magpie, they are thieves. If you are missing any jewelry, they say look in magpie nest. Because anything shiny, these fellows just take it and hoard it in the nest. You see, money lender vritti from last life. Loan sharks, they take all these things and they don't return the what's its name, the ornaments. They extort the people, so that then if you are a loan shark, next time you become a lone magpie and just go, that vritti is still there, so you go everywhere and you take all the shiny objects, and that's what you do all day. But that magpie vritti is not going to bless. Anything that glitters, you cannot go after it. That is prayers. You go after the most exalted thing. You go after the prize, like the Garuda. So we pray to the Garuda, Swastinaha astu. Just like your paths to your goal is unencumbered, uninterrupted, outside and also within. You are not distracted. Let my path to moksha be like this. Let my path to the studies be like this. Not this meandering, circuitous, kabhi mumukshu, otherwise bhubukshu. What is bhubukshu? Huh? Kim tat? Huh? Moktum ichha mumuksha. And therefore, extrapolate.
The one who is
After?
desires.
No.
Experience.
Moktum ichha. Now you will understand Sanskrit also. Moktum ichha mumuksha. Desire for moksha, mumuksha. Bhoktum ichha bhubuksha. What is bhoktum ichha? Desire for being a bhokta all the time. Desire for bhoga, not yoga. Yeah. So kabhi mumukshu, rest of the time bhubukshu. This will not work. I have to be what? Always mumukshu. This is what it is. And then finally, swasti naha dadhatu. May there be swasti for us. May Lord Brihaspati, who is the planet Jupiter, who in Sanskrit is known as Guru, weighty planet. Yeah, Guru is a bada Mahatma, big, huge. This is Guru. And the Jupiter, there is some astronomers, ancient astronomers, I don't know about whether the modern physics and astronomy does this or not. Ancient astronomers claimed that the placement and the orbit of Jupiter had a stabilizing influence on the other planets, even at the relative level, at the empirical level. So therefore, the presence of, so the Guru is also teacher, not just heavy, teacher may be heavy, but we are not talking of that. Yeah. So Guru means teacher here. So Swastinaha Brihaspatihi Dadhatu. Who is this Guru? The Jupiter planet proverbially is seen as as the incarnate of the Lord of the Guru of all the Lords, Brihaspati. The Suras, the Lords, the ones that will go to heaven, get taught by Brihaspati. And he is the Lord of he is the teacher of all the gods. And even the Asuras had their own teacher. Suracharya, Brihaspati, Asuracharya, Shukracharya. Shukra is the planet Venus. So both are Gurus. Venus is Guru. And Guru, of course, is Guru. This is what is that, Vedic astrology trivia. And so this is very interesting. So you cannot blame Shukracharya. Why did he become, what did he teach? He would have also taught Tattvamasi. Because what else will the teacher teach? But then, who were his students? Rakshasas, capitalists, the ones with no shama dhamma, the one that were given to pillage and plunder. It's not the Guru's fault if the Shishyas are like that. You cannot look at the Shishyas and say, oh, it must be a bad Guru. There is no bad Guru. There is only good Guru. And so then why did he have this kind of Shishya? Some prarabdha, poor thing, His own prarabdha. Yes, to have good Shishyas is the prarabdha of the Guru perhaps. And so his prarabdha might not have been good, but what he taught was very, very good. The same thing he taught. They just understood it differently. He said Deha is not Atma. But they were all tamasik and full of sleep. So when they dozed off when he said not. And then they woke up. Deha is Atma. Oh, we knew that already. Yippee! Jai ho! Long live Guru! This is what they learnt. Even though what was taught was unadulterated, they adulterated it with their own ragadveshas and what they wanted to hear. And so they say, here is the Vedic astrological trivia has promised. So they say that in the chart, to gain this knowledge, and not only that, to be able to have the blessing of communicating this knowledge, you have to have the good placement of the Guru in the horoscope. But supposing the Guru is not well placed, not just for this knowledge, even to make correct decisions and having proper priorities in life, to be a dharmic person, you need the placement of the Guru is very important. In marriage, that's the first thing they see. But not just the placement of the Guru. Supposing the Guru is, not very well benefited, not very well aspected, let us say. Then the second thing to look is Venus. This is the thing. And if Venus is nice, no problem. Moksha is assured. And it is very, 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 very extremely rare for both, Venus and Jupiter to not be well placed. Very rare. One or the other will always, bless. So, Swasti Naha Brihaspatir Dadhatu. Why not Swasti Naha Shukracharya Dadhatu? Because here we are talking of, everything that is auspicious. Bhadram. So, if you invoke Shukracharya, see, poor Shukracharya, not his fault, I told you, just his prarabdha. If you invoke Shukracharya, you immediately have to think of his students, which we don't want to do. Because all the Rakshasic and the Asuric tendencies we are trying to take away. So we don't invoke Shukracharya. And so therefore, Swastinaha Brihaspatihi Dadhatu. And then finally, there are 3 Shantis. Why? Because one ain't enough. One isn't enough. Look at the number of obstacles. Here, there, everywhere. It's like, going under an avalanche. There are pelting rocks and stones coming without a break. Why? Because some mountain goat there grazing. And felt like kicked off one stone. And started this huge thing. And what is the mountain goat? Prarabdha. Yes. That's why Prarabdha always gets your goat and then finished. And then and one, it doesn't kick off, only one stone it kicked, but it had that snowballing effect, and then it just, you are flattened completely under the prarabdha's effect of all these big rocks, small rocks, from pebbles to various kinds of rocks. Ishta rock, Anishta rock, everything, That's all it is. And then you don't have any chance to gain the knowledge. What is the knowledge? What does the knowledge say? You rock. That is what it says. But you just got that knowledge literally, not understanding it. Just pelted everywhere by prarabdhic stones. That is what it is. Slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, to put it in Hamlet's words. Horrible. And that is every jiva's question, to be or not to be. What choice is there? To be in this life or to be in the next life, you can ask. because there is no choice not to be. So here, we need a lot of grace to escape the prarabdhic avalanche, the avalanche of ill fortune, the avalanche of illness, physical, mental, dental, everything. Illness is a huge thing. Suddenly some ache, pain, stops coming to class, misses a lot. And actually even online, I have seen that if they miss one class, if people miss one class, they never miss one class. It's an avalanche of classes that are missed. Because, what's the difficulty in coming back? First there is physical illness, okay, some ache and pain stopped you from attending the class. Then I asked, but then that went away, right? Yeah, because the class meets on Tuesday and Thursday, let us say. And then, you got the ache on Thursday. Surely by Tuesday you were all right. Yes, I was fine. I did some research on this. Then what happened? By the time the mental illness had taken over, what was the mental illness? Severe guilt. Oh, I missed. So much I missed out. I will never catch up. I should listen. First the idea is I should listen. First the guilt is I missed out. Then the second level of guilt is I should have listened to the recording, but I haven't listened. Therefore I cannot go back. And then you compound the problem because then you have missed the second class. Then the guilt is also compounded. Then there is hurt. Is anyone even missing me in class? Does anybody even notice I'm alienated? Nobody cares for me. Nobody. All the students are interested only in their own moksha. Nobody is interested in my moksha. Nobody wants to make it easy for my moksha. See, they're all interested in their individual moksha. And such a person, such a disgruntled person alone writes an article later on. Somebody wrote an article. Vedanta is the most selfish pursuit. Ayyo Rama. That's all I have to say. So, therefore, in not just 33 shantis, 33 crore shantis, you say it's not enough. Yeah, we stop at 3 because we just say, okay, please, bless us. The avalanche of prarabdha, starting with physical illness, converting to mental illness. What is the mental illness? Guilt, hurt. That's the mental illness. Bhoktritvam, kartritvam. That's all it is. And then from there to other, then the illness is contagious because other people catch it. Yeah. You spread the alienation. You spread the abandonment. This is what it is. And everyone, like the flu, everybody catches it. Alienation prasada. Then what? Then business as usual. That's all it is. So Shanti, see, when you say, even though we split it, first Shanti, Adi Daivika Shanti, second Shanti, Adi Bhautika Shanti, third Shanti, Adhyatmika Shanti, Shanti from external sources, Shanti from surroundings, Shanti from internal sources. I never, first when I heard it, I said, what is this? But really speaking, the external and the internal delightfully conflate, really where you cannot see the difference. Where is the external? It is located right here, internally. Okay? Yeah. And then if I have a response to that which is external, where is it understood? Right here again. So what is really external? You cannot say that there is nothing external. Obviously, if you drive like that and then especially on an Indian road, and then, you encounter a non-existent pothole, and then you will have non-existent back pain and you will be in search of a non-existent chiropractor. So you cannot say nothing is external. Yes, there is a external reality. It is not the ultimate, but there is there. It is there, an apparent reality is there. And I have to make peace with it. That is Shanti. That is Adi Bhautika Shanti, is to be able to see everything and be okay with what is. That is the middle Shanti. The first Shanti is what? That all the things over which I have no control. All the things. What do you have control over? Tell me. Nothing. So, that over which I have no control, which is everything, may it be, may it be manageable. May I have the strength to bear it. May it not disturb me. That's what it is. Then the final Shanti is all about clearing sweeping the cobwebs in the mind in which all debris gets trapped. Yeah. Every passing impression gets trapped and stored because I have cast a web of gloom. This is what it is. So the final Shanti, like I said, you can say it 33,000 times, 33 trillion times. It is not enough, but we stop at 3. So this is the Atharva Veda Shanti Mantra. Very beautiful, very powerful, and very soothing, very hopeful to chant. And even if you are not studying Atharva Upanishad, you can chant this every day. It really blesses. Shanti mantras are not just before the study, they enhance the study. Shanti mantras are before the study called life. We'll break here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hari Om. 15-20 minutes, you can stretch and come back.